mic's off. I started that wrong. I'm so sorry. I already boomed it. Hello, everybody. Welcome to Shooting the Breeze with Lady Liberty. I'm Kate Fantanell. I just boomed it already. Every show, I always boomer it. I'm so sorry, but hello. Welcome to the show. Special WA state election edition. I am here, still in Perth. My brother-in-law and sister have let me commandeer their backyard to bring you this special live stream edition because of the result of the WA election last night. I have been getting a lot of messages, especially from the shooting community, who are just wondering what the bloody hell we do now. We've just seen Labor win again in a landslide. I know there were swings against them. I'll talk about that tonight too. I know we had the upper house result, which everybody's looking at too, to see who holds the balance of power there. But let me start by just saying thank you. Thank you to every single person who has donated to the Legal Action Challenge against WA's gun laws. I ticked over the target late last night. I'm so overwhelmed and so grateful for every single person who has gotten behind me. I've done this as an individual. I have no support from any organization, any business, any political party. I'm doing this as a single person on my own, fighting a David and Goliath battle against the WA Labor Party and their gun laws. And I'm going in tomorrow morning. I have booked in to see my team of lawyers and the King's Counsel. An eminent lawyer who is willing to sit down and give up his career as a judge. He'll never get appointed as a judge after this, challenging the Labor Party, who have such a stronghold on this state. So tomorrow morning, I am heading in because, as I predicted, as I thought, as I feared, WA would be in a position after the election yesterday where we would not have an upper house with the people we need to fight this. We would not have a different government in power. So the only options we have now is the justice system, the courts, the legal side of town, who have been wondering where all the shooters are, where's the shooting organizations, asking them, is the law that they've written, is that legal? Do we have to comply? Can we have property limits in our country? It's just gotten to a point now in Western Australia where people are wondering what we can do. And I know people were focused on the political solution. I know a lot of people and organizations put time and money into the political fight. I said from the start, it was too big a battle for us to turn it around this election. The 2021 state election, we all remember the red wave that came across that closed border and what happened there. It was going to take a bloody miracle for it to turn into the hands of the Liberal National Party if they could even form coalition again, which is another thing I will talk about tonight. But I want to start by saying from the bottom of my heart, thank you for supporting me. Thank you for putting your trust in me to fight for your future. I could not do this alone. It has been such a hard battle. I'm getting emotional already because I'm just so grateful that I'm in a position to help the people of Western Australia who have the boot of the state on their neck about these gun laws. And I know guns is not for everyone. I understand that, but it's also about the principles. Do we want limits on the number of private property we can own? Do we want to be treated like criminals? Do we want to be turned into a state where we have such high regulations and such high levels of compliance that we are in a position where we cannot own our firearms that we need for tools of the trade for our sport to help protect this beautiful country and this beautiful state, the landscape here. It's just incredible. So thank you to everyone who's donated. I'm going in to see the lawyers tomorrow morning. I booked that last week because I said to them on the phone, I think we're going to see the Labor Party return and I need to get this advice to the people as soon as possible. We cannot keep waiting and sending in pro formas written by the shooting organization that they think is going to work. No, we need the advice from the highest level in this town who can help us and help get challenges before the courts, because that's the only option we have now. There is no political solution. So thank you for supporting me, and I will do my absolute best to fight for you through the courts. So now we've gotten that out the way, let's talk about yesterday. Let's talk about the WA state election. I went to vote. I went very late in the day because I thought I thought that it would be a quieter time, but it turns out everybody was going in at the last minute. I did see a lot of people walk in just to get their name signed off and then throw the ballot straight in the bin. I saw a lot of that happening. Mr. Liberty was watching from outside and he saw that happen a lot too. A lot of people confused about what electorates they're in because the boundaries have been redrawn, and that has certainly helped Labor retain their stronghold on this state, especially in my mate Police Minister Paul Papalia's seat. That boundary was redrawn, and he did have massive swings against him. I wrote it down before I jumped on. 17.6% swing against him. So I was watching that very closely, and it was in doubt for quite a while, but he's gotten across the line there, and you can have a look at the boundaries that were redrawn to see how much that helped him. So I went to vote late yesterday. A lot of people were only there to get signed off. There is a lot of people who are just so disenfranchised and disenchanted with politics in this country, and who can blame them? I mean, this is what democracy looks like in this country now. The systems that we have, which are all by design, and this case, the WA Labor Party, who changed the Electoral Act 4 times. 4 times, if you remember my interview with Nick Garan and Jack Carmody, my mate, if you saw that live stream earlier this week, the last minute live stream we did. I'm still recovering from that episode, Jack. Bloody hell, that was a big one. And then we were on the phone for another 2.5 hours talking about how we were going to save the world. But that's what we do. We are people who care about the people. So the election yesterday. How's everybody feeling? Put your comments in the chat. I've already got quite a few comments in here, but let me just start by recapping where we're at now so we know the lay of the land in Western Australia. They're still counting. So they're up to 63.8% of the vote in the lower house, which is where government is formed. So 40 seats have already been confirmed have gone to Labor, 5 have gone to the Liberals, and 4 the Nationals. There's still 10 seats that they're counting. But judging by those numbers, the Labor Party have once again won enough to form a government in this state. So we will have Premier Roger Cook for another 4 years, unless he gets rolled or retires to take on another 4 jobs like his predecessor did. We will see. That's how the Labor Party rolls. So not a great result for the Liberal Party. And I know that there were swings against Labor up to 20% in some seats, 10 to 20% swings towards the Liberals. But remember, it came from that point back in 2021 where there was such a swing towards Labor about keeping the border closed and how the Premier handled COVID. So that's why it was an uphill battle for the Liberal and National Party, and questions are already being asked. Did they do enough in those 4 years? Have they come together? Are they the party of Menzies? What was their real solution for this state? Are people here hurting enough to want to change to a Liberal government? A lot of people are still not happy with the Colin Barnett era. So why would you change something if you're not hurting yet? That's the situation we have in the lower house. Now let's look at the upper house. This is the house that I've been banging on about because it's the house of review. It's the house where people like my dear friend Dr. Brian Walker from the Legalised Cannabis Party, who has been re-elected, and congratulations to him. So that's one of the good things that came out of this election, is having someone like him returned to serve the people of Western Australia in the upper house. So it looks like he is in. He is in. They have lost 1 seat. They did have 2 before this. Now they're only looking at 1. And that's because there was such a huge swing towards the Greens Party. They're looking to get 4 seats in the upper house. And with 16 for Labor at the moment, by my maths, that means that Labor and the Greens will hold the balance of power in the upper house. So where are we compared to where we were last week? We're in the same position. We have one party ruling the roost in both houses of parliament. Yes, they will have to negotiate with the Greens, it looks like. So at this stage, nothing has changed for us, for the people of Western Australia. It is looking like the Liberals will get around 13, which is a huge improvement. So there has been a change there. The Nationals only two at this stage, and there should be questions asked about why the shooting organisations were backing the Nats to the extent that they did, and ignoring some of the other minor parties like my friends and Shooters Fishers Farmers Party, who do not look like they will get a seat at this stage. We have not counted preferences yet. We've only counted 53% of primary votes, which is when you put a 1 in the box above the line. They have not looked at those who voted below the line like I did, labeling up to 20 under the line. I did that because I wanted to control where my vote went. So we're not down to preferences yet, but by predictions, it is looking like One Nation will get at least 1, if not 2 seats. So Rod Caddies from One Nation looks definitely to be in. Marika Gronwald from the Christians Party, it's the first time they've ever won a seat in WA. She looks pretty safe to be in. And the Legalised Cannabis Party, as I said, potentially Animal Justice Party, they might get 1, otherwise it'll go to One Nation. So this is the lay of the land in WA at the moment. And breaking it down, like I said before, it means Labor still has control of the upper house with the support of the Greens. So this is what the voters of WA decided yesterday. This is where we're at in WA, and I know a lot of people are wondering, how did we get to this point? Have people not suffered enough? Was the gun laws, was that not enough? And obviously it's not. Obviously it's not. So I'm going to throw to some questions. I just wanted to give an overview of the state of things. I'm going to have a sip of my drink because I'm already getting a bit tired. All right, I've got lots of questions. I'll start going through them. Thank you for joining me on this Sunday evening, this special WA election live stream. I did give an update on legal action. I'm going in to see the lawyers tomorrow. I cannot wait. I'm so glad that I made that decision. I've been working to form coalitions with people who support my mission to advance liberty and to protect gun owners. Unfortunately, I didn't find many coalitions with the shooting organisation, so I had to branch out. That's why I've started talking to the legal side of town. I've got about 5 lawyers on speed dial here that I can call. You can't just put all your eggs in one basket because you're in a position. This is what you're in. This is the position the shooting organisations are in. You backed one party. They didn't do as well as you thought. In fact, they underperformed. And now what are you going to do for the members? I'm going in to see the lawyers tomorrow, and I'm not paid by anyone to do this. So thank you to everyone who donated. I couldn't do it without you. Let's get to some questions. Oh, James Goff, I got my hand in now letter last week. I don't know what to do. A lot of shooters are getting these letters, especially after the regulations came out just before Christmas, which had push button release firearms on there and lever actions too. I know the shooting organisations have sent out a form that you can send in to the police to try and hold on to them longer. I will be asking my lawyers about this tomorrow. The confiscation of private property that has been banned by regulation, they are not offering compensation at all. The buyback program is closed. It is not on the agenda for the government to reopen. This is something that my lawyers will be looking at tomorrow. So to everyone who's getting these letters and are terrified about what to do, seeing the lawyers tomorrow, they're going to take about 3 to 4 days to go through all of the act and regulation. As Nick Garan said in the interview, it's the biggest piece of legislation he's seen, over 450 pages. And the police want us to be the ones to make sure we're not breaking any law. They haven't sent out any advice on what it actually means. So I will be asking my lawyers tomorrow what we can do about those confiscations. So just hold on, please. I know we don't want to wait any longer, but I only made the target last night, so I couldn't do anything until I had enough money, unfortunately. But please sit tight. I had a message last night from a guy who was really upset, saying he was basically going to have to put his guns in a bathtub and do a Bad style way of getting rid of them. And I told him, just wait, just wait. WASP Works, please ask more WA shooters to donate, Kate. Not enough done so thus far. And that's the other thing I would like to point out. I have reached the target that was set for me, but if we want to go ahead with further legal advice, lawyers charge by the 15-minute block. So if you would like to donate more to help me keep up this work and help fund everything that I'm doing for you, please give as much as you can. Shooter Down Under, g'day, one of my regular listeners. I'm going to say one thing about the upper house results. Just wait, because it usually takes weeks to get the full results and they're not even halfway done. That is true. That is true. They're only at 53% of the vote counted. They haven't started counting below the lines and preferencing yet. So these are just raw numbers that I read out before. It doesn't look like at this stage, like I said, shooters and fishers will get in. It also doesn't look like the Libertarian Party did very well at all, keeping in mind when I ran for the Senate back in 2022, I got 29,500 votes running for the Liberal Democrats, and the Libertarian Party is a rebranded version of that. Last I checked, their lead candidate, Ryan Burns, was only on 5,623. So I think there'll be a lot of questions being asked in the Libertarian Party about what went wrong. They were predicting 3 or 4 seats. That's what their Victorian Senate candidate publicly said. What happened? What happened? You could have had me run, but okay, Sarah, Sarah. The Duke of Lyndhurst, you're not just informing firearms owners. Oh, okay, I don't really know what that means. He's made a little smiley face, so I'm informing everybody. Derek Kerr, go get them, Kate, all the best. Yes, I will. Peg's Place, I have no faith in government or politicians in general. And that was I was listening to some of the conversations in the lineup for people to vote, and there were comments about why should I participate in a system of electing pedophiles to rule over us, that kind of thing. So this is what democracy is in Australia. We have to vote or we get fined, and what you do on the ballot paper is your choice. I saw some people drawing some very artistic artwork. If I had it my way, I wouldn't make people vote, because then you end up with uninformed voters voting whoever's promising the most free things, and that doesn't always work out well for society in the long run. Catherine Cavaney, at least the Legislative Council didn't go 100% to ALP. Several electoral booths ran out of ballot papers. I saw this too when I went to vote. I was voting in an area where there was a lot of electoral boundary crossovers, and they ran out of ballot papers for the neighbouring electorate. So they were literally drawing up handmade ballot papers. And the funny thing is, the WA Electoral Commission, this is their one job every 4 years, is to hold an election. So the mind boggles to think how much money we pay for this service. And then on the day, it's just you're waiting and there's no ballot papers. And it's just, anyway, yes, it was a bit of a shit show yesterday. Emma McGurven and the above the line stuff, I didn't realize until after I voted and saw Jack's video. I felt like a bloody idiot. Yes, I was going to do a video on how to vote, but I didn't have the time to put that together. It is a lot of work. You need to read through the Electoral Act and make sure you're giving out the right information. You also need to get that information um, authorized by the WAAC to put it out, because it's technically electoral information. So I did not want to put myself in a situation like my good mate Topher Field did back in the Senate election. He had that wonderful marbles video. As soon as he announced he was running for the Senate for the Liberal Democrats on the ticket with me, the AEC took that down and nearly fined him for that. So I just wanted to avoid that. Hopefully one day we can have people more educated about civics and we know how to vote. I feel they don't teach that enough at school. So Shooter Down Under, I have one prediction. This is not going to be the last change to the electoral system. I expect they will bring in staggered terms like New South Wales and SA, potentially. So the Electoral Act changed 4 times under Labor government in the last 4 years. Like I said, they changed the boundaries, they abolished the upper house region. So now we do not have regional representation. A lot of the upper house candidates have been elected from the city area. So it is going to be interesting to see what happens in regards to the voices of those in the country. And we'll see if they change it again. They're always changing things to suit themselves. And this is why I always say the system is rigged against what the people want, and it's designed to benefit the parties, the major parties specifically, and the politicians already in power. Nathan Allen, Secret Harbour has only 58% counted. Yes, I did see Secret Harbour, which of course is where Police Minister Paul Papali is. They're only up to 58%, but they've declared it for him anyway. My good mate Jim Matters, who ran for the Legalised Cannabis Party, he was sitting on about 6%. Which is great for the party, because if you get above 4%, you do get electoral funding back for all your efforts and time for the election. So that's some good news. And he ran such a strong campaign. That interview I did with him and Dr. Brian Walker, he is a statesman. I really hope, I said to him, you should be running for federal. So we'll see what the party does with my mate Jim Matters, and good on him for throwing his hat into that race. I nearly did. I nearly ran against the police minister, but when you don't have the support of the organisations, you can't do it. And when you've got the Labor commies against you, it's not a battle that you can put yourself in. I'm not a martyr anymore. Dave Coral, have you reached your target for legal action? Yes, I did late last night, Dave. I did. I have made enough to pay the lawyers. I did say before, because this work will have to be ongoing, that any extra money I can get to keep the fight up, please donate. This is just to pay for my first meeting and the first bit of advice. So I'm hoping that will be enough. But as always, we'll see. It is quite a big bit of legislation that we have to go through. So any extra support? Mr. Liberty saying I've hit 35. Thank you to everybody. That's just such a huge weight off my shoulders. I did put my new husband and I in a bit of a difficult position taking up this battle if we didn't earn enough money, signing things with lawyers. It was a lot of pressure on me, but I had to do it for the people. I had to make sure that we were not focusing on a purely political solution and that the Nationals were going to be the ones to save us. I had to make sure we had a backup plan. And that's one thing, my piece of life advice is always have a backup plan. So I'm so grateful that I can be the backup plan for shooters who have been let down by this election and terrified about what's to come now that we have Labor in control with the Greens as well, who are no friends of shooters. So I'm so glad that I'm in a position to be able to help with the legal side of town. So that meeting's tomorrow morning. I'm going to do a quick live stream tonight because I have lots of work to do. I have to go through, and thank you to everybody. And if you're tuning in, if you have any areas of the law that you want us to look at, please put them on the chat. Send me a message or email me, ladyliberty.wa@gmail.com. Please send me the information. I have quite a thick folder to go in with tomorrow, but any information you can give me that will help you, please let me know, and I'll raise it with the lawyers tomorrow. Emma McGurven, we're joking about leaving WA. We won't. This is my home, but it's worrying. I know. I feel for you, Emma. I left here in March last year, nearly a year ago now, and it was so hard to leave. This is my home too. This is the best state in Australia. My sister and brother-in-law bought a house here, so they're here to stay because it is the best place to live in this whole bloody country. So I understand how hard it is to live in a state where you love so much, but the government, you can't live with the government. So hang tight if you're a shooter. I'll be fighting the laws in court and hopefully doing what I can to make sure you can stay here. Ian Peterson, disappointing result. Really want to see upper house numbers. Yes, they've only counted 53% of the upper house. They haven't got to below the line votes yet. So my predictions about who will get in is based on the rough numbers, but we will see. Sue Simpson, untrained staff gave direction. You can only put one number on the upper house ballot. I saw Jack Carmody, my mate who was running number 4 Shooters, Fishers, Farmers Party, also heard that too. He put out a video yesterday saying, no, that is incorrect. You can only put one above the line if you like, or you can label below the line as long as you label more than 20. Once again, this is an education thing. And yes, I feel bad that I didn't spend enough time educating people about how to vote, but I can't take on every battle. But yeah, that's concerning that the electoral staff were giving out information. They seemed very overwhelmed, and it was just so surprising to me because you have one job every 4 years. But that's what you get when the state runs elections. Ian Peterson, so another left wing government, even in upper house. If the Greens cared about native animals, they'd back recreational shooters. Well, I have some good news about the Greens. Dr. Brad Pettit, who is their upper house member and has been re-elected, he was very appreciative of the work that Conservation Australia does, which is a organisation here who does pest and feral animal control for producers and people who own land. And Dr. Brad Pettit from the Greens did send them a very nice letter thanking them for the work. So perhaps in WA, we might have a situation where the Greens are more open to the idea of using firearms to destroy feral animals. Like we have legalized cannabis WA. They are not like the legalized cannabis party over east, especially in Victoria. They are more progressive in their terms of thinking. They understand science and evidence, and that's why I work so closely with them and Dr. Brian Walker to educate them about the importance of firearm owners in this state. So perhaps we could see the Greens come to the table on this issue. It would be the first time that they have since they were formed. But if they care about the environment, they will understand that you need hunters out there doing the job. And yes, I am outside, and yes, someone has started doing some work on a Sunday night, so I apologize. I apologize for the background noise. Des P. The problem is the majority of the public are in favour of tougher gun laws who do not carry it or do not give a toss about them. The number of law abiding firearm owners is around 3% of the voters. That's true, but I also think the problem is the majority of the public don't actually know what our laws are to begin with. And so when you see things in the media, we need to cut down on the number of guns in the community, people would just generally think, yeah, that's a good thing, and not realize that you're taking guns off of farmers or people who own properties larger than the size of Perth, like my mate Jack Carmody up north. So that's the problem we have is people's fishbowl, if you like. They just memories of fish, and they just take the words of the politicians and don't actually have the time to consider the issue because they're not interested. It's not their passion. They'll just think, yes, let's go along with that. And that's why we need people outside of our communities, outside of our bubbles, outside of our Facebook groups, talking to the general public about this. We need those PR campaigns, the billboard campaigns from back in the day that SSAA used to run when I worked for them, showing the positive side of what we do. And without that, if you don't have the money to run those campaigns, all you could do is sit behind a camera like I am on a Sunday night and try and talk to people about what it actually means to be a firearm owner in this country. Nathan Allen, what about Louise Kingston? So she ran as an independent. It doesn't look like she's going to get up either, the last I checked. So very hard to get elected as an independent. That's part of the electoral laws. It's by design. So Tim Molesworth, good day, Tim. He's my mate from Victoria. I'm shocked at the amount of hunters and sporting shooters that vote Labor. I haven't had any shooter tell me they're voting Labor, but I have heard this secondhand. So I'm not really sure what's going on. I hope we're not in a position like the Victorians are, where you are, Tim, where people have become reliant on the state for their job. They're either working directly for the government or they work for a mining company that has contracts for the government, so that at election time they vote to keep Labor in because that's their reliance on their future and their job. This is the problem that we have, especially in Victoria, and then you throw in the unions there too. I really hope WA is not turning into that. I really hope that that's not the case, because then you will have Labor year after year after year after year until we get to the point where it's just a one party state. And that is terrifying. We've lived under a one party state the last 4 years where they've been able to ram through legislation in one day. The kerfuffle with the Aboriginal Cultural Heritage Act and now firearms as well, plus all the other things. This is what happens when people get too comfortable with power and wield it to benefit themselves and their parties and not the people. So, James Goff, I don't know if I should hand in my Lever Release 22 win mag on the 31st. I will keep following and wait to hear more. Yes, please hold on to your guns, boys. Just hold on. I'm seeing the lawyers tomorrow. So just wait. We have until the 31st of March. I know it's getting down to the wire, but it's taken me this long. I launched my legal action campaign back in February after talking to lawyers and doing my own research, and thought that this was the best way we could challenge the laws, because I did not buy into the rubbish online about voting the Nationals in to save us. I thought this does not seem like it's going to end well for us. So hold on. I'm hoping I have the advice by the end of the week. As soon as I get this advice, I will be sharing it far and wide. I have repeatedly said I've waived my client privilege for this advice. I'm not a licensed firearm owner in WA because I left last year. My firearms are safely in the hands of my father, who has been looking after them for me and putting new scopes on them and making sure they're clean and sighted in. So I do not have any skin in the game. I am purely doing this for the principle, for the people, and for the fight. So just sit tight and I will get you the advice as soon as I have it in my hot hands. Yeah, Callum howling. Is it a dumb idea to still buy a new firearm before the 31st? I have genuine needs and shoot hundreds of foxes. You can only try. You can only put it in if you need them. You have to. And if they don't give it to you and you've proven genuine need, please let me know. And this is the kind of story we can start sharing, that property owners who have a legitimate problem to deal with, foxes are cunning and terrible. I remember going out on hunts with my dad on grandma's farm, and they're cunning, and they are destructive. They destroyed my grandma's chickens a few times. So this is something that these are the stories we need to get out to the public. This is the effect of the laws that Labor has brought in. So please let me know how you go, Caleb. Oh, Catherine Cabaney. Hi, Catherine. Legalized cannabis had only one seat. They shafted Sophie M. She ran as independent and lost. Yes, I did see that. I think it was mutually agreed to go their separate ways, from what I heard. Um, so they had two up until only very recently. So they went into the election, you're right, with just one upper house member, which is my friend Dr. Brian Walker. Sophie ran independent and didn't get in. So, yeah, you could say that legalized cannabis has retained their one seat if you like. That's fine. Malana Vissa, I don't see how it can even be legal as a parliamentary process wasn't even followed. No debate, nothing. How is it legal to turn law abiding citizens into criminals with a stroke of a pen? Not to mention, they have moved so far away from the NFA and haven't implemented any recommendation from the Law Reform Commission, i.e., no bloody limits on law abiding firearm owners. So frustrating and disheartening. I just want to make the point about the National Firearms Agreement and WA moving away from that. The National Firearms Agreement is not a legally a binding document. This is something that the states and territories signed up to in principle. After 1996, the state and territory governments still hold the residual powers to regulate and legislate firearm controls. The Commonwealth government look after imports and export. That is their jurisdiction. That always has been. The states and territories, it has always been their jurisdiction to regulate and legislate firearms as they see fit and as suits the people of each state. So I do not like when people hold up the NFA as a document that is enshrined in law and that we should follow it. We shouldn't even be talking about an NFA to begin with. That's not good enough for shooters either. So just wanted to make that point clear. And I'm still disgusted that the Shooting Industry Foundation of Australia were in the media saying that WA should adhere to the NFA. No one should have to adhere to the NFA. The states can do what they want. The states should adhere to what the people want, not what the politicians have gotten together and signed in private. So just wanted to make that point. But you're right. There was the parliamentary process. I spoke to Nick Garan about this, my interviews on YouTube with him. He said they only looked at 14 of the amendments to the law, and it's a 400 something page document, so it did not go through the parliamentary process properly. That's for sure. But when you have one party having absolute power in both houses, they don't need to. They can do whatever they like, ramming through laws in one day. We saw that happen in the last term of government. So, and you're right, Melissa Milana, about the Law Reform Commission report, Project 105. Jack spoke about that with me earlier in the week. Professor Augusto Zimmerman was the lead author of that report, and he was wild when he saw the new laws come out because they spent so much time, so much taxpayers' money going through the 1973 Firearms Act, and they did not listen to anything that he reported on in that gigantic report that was written. And that's why people like him who aren't shooters, Nick Garan's not a shooter, a lot of people aren't interested in our recreation, and that's fine. What they are interested in is politicians making sure they are writing laws that suit the people. And when the Labor Party government is sitting on a gigantic report, which is written by esteemed lawyers and had so much feedback from the community, and the organizations were at the table too in genuine consultation, and they went ahead and brought in laws completely different to what was recommended by their own law reform commission. This is the situation we're in WA. And that's why, after you see a government with that mentality, along with the doxing, along with the ban on high powered firearms that they disarm from our veterans, along with blowing up guns that they confiscated of people for pennies, along with closing the gun confiscation program and then banning things last minute on Christmas Eve, when you see a government do that and you think that the only solution is political, when the political landscape is so complex in this state, the only option is to make sure you've got your lawyers lawyered up and ready to go. That's what I've been doing. So I'm so grateful once again that I'm in a position I can go ahead with this fight, because if we didn't have this, I shudder to think the number of people who would be inconsolable with this election result. Inconsolable. So I'm it's it's a lot to bear on my shoulders, and as I said, I'm one individual. I'm not a member of any shooting organizations because they have not supported me. They have used me and abused me and left me homeless when I was up in Queensland. So I've continued this fight for the people because that's who I want to help. I don't want to help myself. Like I said, I don't own a gun in this state. I technically I'm registered to vote here because I've been on the road since March. I'm technically homeless. If that makes the person on my Facebook this morning say, "You and your long-haired guitar man should keep enjoying your holiday and grifting off of us," I wish I had a holiday, mate. I wish I had been having a holiday, but I'm here to fight for the people. And I do it because of what the government did to my dad back in 1996. So I'll always be on the side of shooters and people, even if it's to my own detriment and my own health. Just let you enjoy that soothing music while I have a bit of a break. Dave Corral, I'll send more cash your way when I can. Thank you, Dave. Thank you. And like I said, any extra help from here will help me do more work in this space. It's been a hard, bloody slog, let me tell you that. A lot of sacrifice. I'm still living on the road. I'm here at my sister and brother in law's house in Perth because it's so expensive. Accommodation here in this state, the housing crisis, that is something that is, I've been very shocked to see the number of homeless people in Perth since I returned after leaving a year ago. I'm very scared about what WA will look like in 4 years' time, especially with Labor and the Greens in charge. But that's what the people wanted. And obviously, we have enough people in these government or contract positions where they need the government of the day to continue so they can keep surviving. And I get it. People are in survival mode in this country now. And that's why they're voting for things like the most free things or who will keep them their jobs. And this is a very dangerous position to be in when the government is the ones who are the powerhouse of the economy and control the economy, and then they can control us. And that's what I'm seeing in WA. And it's terrifying to think what will happen in 4 years. And the Duke of Lyndhurst, I won't be moving to WA anytime soon. That breaks my heart because this is the best state to live in this whole country. I've lived everywhere. I've lived in every state except for Tassie. Haven't lived in Tassie. I've visited a few times there. It's beautiful down there. Too cold for me. Too cold for me. But honestly, it's such a beautiful state, and the lifestyle, the people, the culture here. It's just to see it being handed over to a government who treats the people, especially the farmers who own property, like can't even get a gun to shoot foxes anymore. This is the position that they've put us in. So I really, 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 really hope and pray that my legal action, I know it will deliver results. I know that in my heart. So I'll be working very hard tomorrow with them and going forward. Oh, Marek Zabroka, in my brief, look at donation benefactors. They appeared as legal firms backed Labor in donation gifts. My immediate thought was that all makes sense now with why a bill smashed through and so horribly written seems a basis for evil intentions. That's scary if there's legal firms donating to the Labor Party. There is meant to be a separation of powers in this country where legal firms have to be apolitical, and my lawyers have been very clear to me about that. I'm working with them because there is a piece of legislation and regulations that they can look through. That is their job. It is not their job to have a personal opinion on the issue. Their job is to look at through the lens of the law. So I've been working with them, and I understand that they are apolitical. So to see the Labor Party here being given donations from legal firms, red flag. Gary Vernon, I'm not joking about leaving WA. I will be if I lose my firearms, won't even be able to go fishing. My heart breaks for you, Gary. Leaving here was one of the hardest decisions I had to make, but I couldn't survive here much longer, and I had to hit the road and to be able to achieve what I've wanted to achieve in life. I still haven't achieved it yet, but I'm on the right path. I've met my beautiful husband, and I'm off. I'm off, and I cannot be stopped now. I'm not beholden to anyone, any party, any organization. I would love to move back here. I would love to live in WA, but I agree with you. It's very hard to stay in a place where you won't be able to keep going and doing what you love because of the government. So I feel for you. Chris Jensky. What is going on with the other GoFundMe account? I donated to both. Yes, good question, Chris. So there are two GoFundMe's for legal action against the gun laws. The one there's two. So the one that you donated to, that wasn't me. He is focusing on a high court constitutional challenge. So there are different levels of courts, just like there's different houses of parliament. If you want to make that comparison, so he is focusing on high court constitutional challenge. That means if any of the laws, the WA gun laws, break constitutional laws. Now, that is not a battle that from what I know and research, I've worked in politics for 15 years. Part of my job, especially at SSAA, was to go through all the firearm laws across state and territory. So I had to know all the gun laws across this land. And from my understanding, I don't know if there will be any successes with a High Court challenge, which is why I launched my legal action to put laws before the WA court. So we're talking Supreme Court challenges here. So different legal challenges. The High Court challenge is important. It is a lot more expensive to get constitutional lawyers. Um, the chances of success, have a look at what happened during the pandemic with the closed border. You might remember Clive Palmer challenging those laws in the court because he wanted to come here to WA. He has mining tenements here, so he had a legitimate reason to travel. The government denied him entry. He took that challenge to the High Court of Australia because there is a clause in the Australian Constitution that allows freedom of travel between the states and territories for all people on the land. And the High Court of Australia ruled that during a state of emergency, we do not have that right. So that is now what we have to deal with if we're ever in a state of emergency again. We do not have the right to travel in our own country if the government has declared a state of emergency. I lived in WA during the pandemic, so I couldn't travel to see my family in South Australia for 2.5 years. I don't want to talk about it, I'll get emotional. So, High Court challenges are very, very complex, very difficult to win. He is going down that route, and I thank him for that because that's not something I could take on. It's a lot more work, a lot more money. Our constitutional lawyers are a whole other breed. I am looking at WA court challenges here. So that's a different. Thank you for donating to both. Uh, yeah, both important challenges. But I hope, and from what I understand, I believe that my challenge will have more chances of success. But it's always good to back whatever options we have on the table because we need. It's a battlefield, like I keep saying. You need to have all your bases covered. Gary Vernon said Labor booths were giving away $5 to people who would vote Labor. Gary, if you saw that or if you have proof of that, please let the WAC know. They cannot do that. There are very strict rules. I know my friends, I call them friends, use that word lightly, and the Libertarian Party did a stunt the other day where they were paying the tax on petrol and just to prove how much tax we pay. And there was a complaint, well, a concern raised about is that it kind of could be construed as paying people to vote for you. So I know they had a bit of questions about that. So parties cannot be bribing people to vote for them. So if someone saw that or has evidence of that, please report it to the WAEC. We don't need questions about our elections, stealing the vote, that kind of thing. We have to have election integrity. So bloody hell. Thank you to everyone tuning in. Happy Sunday night. This is my special WA state election live stream. Also, talking about the legal action challenge, seeing the lawyers tomorrow morning. I'm excited. I'm excited. Cannot wait to get this King's Counsel in the room. He's probably going to be taken aback by how passionate I am, but we need to get these laws before a court. So that's what I've been working on. I haven't having a holiday here. I haven't seen any of my friends yet. Haven't had time to. So just been here to fight for the people of WA, especially the shooters after the election result yesterday. I'm so glad that I made that decision back in February to go ahead with this risky decision to do this legal action challenge. And thank you again from the bottom of my heart. Thank you to the people who supported me because I would not be able to do this without you. No support from shooting organizations. Just going to throw that out there again. If you want to support me, if you are in a shooting organization and you're sick of me complaining about them not supporting me, please send me an email. Most of you have my number. Give me a call. I would love to work with you. I'm not here to make enemies. I have enough enemies on the commie side of town, so I don't want to be enemies with my own people. We all meant to be trying to achieve the same thing. Apparently, allegedly, we're all fighting for the same thing: firearm freedoms for the people. If you are doing that, if you want to protect and promote the shooting sports, like SSAA's motto is, I'm doing that. So please get behind me if you like. I will always talk to anyone. Please enjoy the background music. Shooter down under, we need to also look at gathering our resources for the federal election, especially in the Senate. The federal election, yes, that is another thing we have to turn our minds to at some stage. The thing I do love about Western Australia is that it's so far away from Canberra, and it it just feels like Mr. Liberty's doing a sound check. He's fine, that's fine. Over here, the federal politics, it doesn't seem to be as influential. That's why I was so focused on the state election and concerned about the result. But yes, people, you do need to turn your mind to the federal election. I don't have any comments about that at the moment. I just want to focus on WA. That's where my fight is at the moment. Coal bunting, are there any loopholes where um, WA firearm holders can send firearms to interstate dealers to be held or sold without having to surrender them? I'm in New South and would hate to see big numbers of firearms destroyed in our country. This is something I said from the very start when they announced the firearm limits and the gun confiscation program. I said, please do not give one gun into the state. We saw how that played out after 1996. We should not participate in that kind of thing. That is not the role of government either, by the way, to confiscate legally held private property. So, yes, I was telling WA firearm owners to send their guns to a mate interstate. That's what I was saying. Shooting organizations were saying something different to me, and they're the ones who are fighting for our rights. But if you are a WA firearm owner and you can please hold on to them until I get this legal advice by the end of the week. Please do not do anything rash. I know a lot of people are terrified and upset about when the police are going to come knocking. We still have time. 31st of March is when the new laws come fully into effect. But send them to a mate interstate. That's what I did. Gave my gun to my dad to look after, so that I wasn't in a position where I would have it confiscated off of me. So I encourage everyone to have a look at doing that. And if people like Cole Bunting, he's there to help. So anyone in the chat, please connect with each other. I can't really run a gun racketeering thing on my show, so I can't be the instigator of that. But it's definitely legal to transfer your firearm to someone else in this country. That is still fine. So please have a look at that as an option. So Matt Pratt, how long will the legal action take? Will it just get held up in court and they will have us over the barrel on a time frame? This is why I'm so frustrated that it's taken me this long to raise the money required. And that's not an attack on anybody. I know I've had a lot of questions from people, rightly so. And this is why I do these live streams, because I want to be held accountable to the people for the work that I do for the people, unlike politicians, you might say. So legal action, the time frame tomorrow morning meeting with the lawyers and the King's Council. Will all be in a room together first thing tomorrow morning. They said it will take about 3 to 4 days to get through the work that they need to do. So hopefully by the end of the week, I will have that information and I will be able to share that with you so we know where we stand and we know the avenues we can challenge the laws in the courts. Yes, I will ask them that. What happens next? I've been purely focused on getting enough money to meet with them in the first place so I can present to them the concerns of the people and the areas that we want challenge, especially the limits on private property. That is a big one that people are hurting the most. So that's they're going to be my first questions to the lawyers. Can we challenge this? How can we challenge this? What does it need to succeed in the courts? This is why I need all this money for the advice. The law is a whole different kettle of fish. Politics is my background, and my understanding is of legislation and regulations. But when it comes to the legal side of town, this is why you need the lawyers. That's why they're so expensive. It is an expertise. Lawyers, how much they read and how much work they do. This is why it's taken me so long to get the amount required to pay them. So I will get a time frame from them. I'll be asking them what the next steps are tomorrow so we know. Because it is 31st of March. It's coming down to the wire, and I'm so frustrated that we're in this position that we've had to being told that we need to rely on a political solution and we'll see a change in government and the upper house will be in control of a minor right crossbench and just all these things that you cannot predict politics. I've been working in politics a long time, longer than I care to admit, and you just cannot predict things and rely on predictions. You need to have backup plans. You need to be talking to the legal side of town. You need to be talking to other people, coalitions across all the parties. You cannot be focused on just your party and just what you want to achieve. It doesn't work like that. You cannot work in a silo. So as soon as I have the time frame, Matt, I will get that out. That's a good question. Joe Ramirez, do you get any support from SSAA? This is a funny thing. So I worked for SSAA National in the national office in Canberra and Adelaide for 5 years. I was the lobbyist, so I went to Canberra and met with politicians. That's where I met Senator David Leyonhjelm, who I went off to work for when I left SSAA. So I worked for them for 5 years. We had a great team back then. The president at the time, Jeff Jones, and also the CEO, Tim Bannister. We had a really strong team working in politics. We were talking to politicians all the time. I was also talking to all the state and territory presidents. I talked to Ron Bryant from SSAA at least once a week about things happening here. They had a big issue with transporting firearms in WA at the time, so I worked with him very closely on that. Tassie, I worked with them as well. They're always having problems down there, of course, because of the sensitivities in that state. So I worked for SSAA for 5 years. I went on to work for Senator David Leyonhjelm. And since then, I have to say I haven't had much, if any, support from SSAA. And when I ran for the Senate back in 2022 in Western Australia, and I ran purely on a Give Gun Owners a Fair Go campaign, gun rights, that was my passion. This is my expertise. I asked SSAA for support and they didn't even return my calls. And they still haven't returned my calls now that I mention it. So I don't know what it is. I call it the establishment. I think they're protecting their organizations and their own backyard. They are not focused on the people and what the pressures that we're under. They have their own pressures to ensure their organizations survive. I get that. That's why you're the president. That's your focus. But when your whole motto is protect and promote the firearm sports, shooting sports, and you're not doing that because people are being disarmed, and it takes me, an individual who's technically unemployed and homeless, to take up this fight with the people, and you can't even return my calls and you ignore me, and then I get slandered by other shooting organizations because I have a different opinion. This is what I've been up against as well. And that's why I am so grateful for the people who have supported me. Because when you're trying to fight the Labor government, the beast of the Labor government, Police Minister Paul Papali of the police state, when you have that on your shoulders, and then you have your own people as well who won't even pick up the phone and call you back. Sometimes, some days I just sit here and think, can one person take on this fight by themselves? And I can't, but the only reason I can and the only reason I'm still sitting here is because of the support of the people. So sorry, I'm getting a bit emotional. I'm exhausted. I have to be honest. Ever since I got back to WA 2 weeks ago, it's just been work, 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 election, trying to sort out all the stuff I left behind when I quickly left last year. So I'm tired, but I'm still fighting, and it's because of the people. Sorry, I'm okay now. No, Lip Campbell. Hey, Kate, do you reckon your old man could hold to my firearms too? He would love to, as long as you let him shoot them and put scopes on them like he did to mine. Although I did bring him that scope back from America to put on my little pistol, so that's okay. Derek, how did Nick Garan go, Kate? Yeah, that was a very interesting interview. It's a very strange cat, Nick Garan. He's re-elected. Phil Twiz, who's number 4 on the Liberal ticket, who I've heard is a supporter of shooters. It looks like he'll get in too, so that's great news to have. And that's something I was working on as well, is forming coalitions with candidates in all across the parties, not just one party, but talking to candidates all across the parties to find out who would support us if they got elected. So Nick Garan is one of them because he's just been appalled by the whole process. And Phil Twiz, who's number 4, he's in there too. So we do have some good libs in WA. I never thought I'd say good and libs in the same sentence after 96, but you do have to. Sometimes I know I get very stubborn and I'm not going to forgive people, but I'll give people a chance to show that they're on our side, and then I will work with them. If you're going to advance liberty, I will work with you, and if you're going to get in my way or bring me down, Peg's place, there's always going to be haters trying to attack you. You can never please everyone. That's true. I also say that sometimes I get attacked about how I look, and my mum always says you can't please everybody, so just be happy with yourself. Goodo says you are doing a fantastic job. I thank you for your efforts. Keep up your great work. If we have any hope of clawing this crap back, we need people like you. Thank you, Goodo. We also need people like Jack Carmody. If you haven't watched that interview, yeah, that was one of my favorite interviews to do. He is an absolute bloody legend, Jack Carmody. Have a look at that interview. He's all the things that he said. I agree with him 100%. So we need people like him too. We need people like Dr. Brian Walker, who I'm so glad has been re-elected. That is just a godsend. And I know the legalized cannabis people are a bit disappointed in the result. They were hoping for 2 or 3 to get up, but most of that vote unfortunately went to the Greens, which just goes to show there needs to be a lot more work done about educating voters what the difference is between legalized cannabis and the Greens. The Legalized Cannabis Party have a much better model for legalizing cannabis in WA, including recreational use, lower tax than what the Greens want it to all be state run. They want state run cannabis farms. Can you imagine? I mean, the state government can't even run a chook raffle. Like, why would we let them grow cannabis? So that's something that I think legalized cannabis will take from this election, is having to put their message out to voters who are sick of the major parties, but Greens have just been so slick, and they've been at this to their credit. They've been working very hard for a long time to infiltrate the universities, infiltrate the education system, and just get them to this point now where they can get away with one line slogans, promising things for free without having to justify what that would mean to the bottom line of our economy, and then the taxes that have to go up to pay it. I'm terrified. I get it, and I have a lot of friends who are Green voters, and it's because the Greens come across as they care and they just want to look after you. The best person who can look after you and your family is yourself. You should not be reliant on the state to save you or to protect you or to prop you up. You need to be reliant on yourself. So Australians, and this is my fear culturally, is that we've turned into a nation where we are looking for someone else to save us, to look after us. And that person is the government, it's not ourselves. And that's by design. And then we do not want to see a nation of people reliant on the state. Look at the NDIS. Look at how much that is costing our country and the number of rorts that is going on. I believe in safety nets for the community. And if we do have to have a government that is their role to look after those people who are genuinely struggling. Of course, we don't want to leave anybody behind. We need to look after those who genuinely need it. But when we have a country now that is looking after everyone, left, right, and center, and people are becoming reliant on the state, so when it comes times for election, they're voting for the party that will keep looking after them instead of looking after themselves and their own future. This is a very, very dangerous position to put yourself in. So, this is my fear with the Greens vote being so strong in WA. And it's also as a mining state, too. What will they do to the economy in WA when they might have the balance of power in the upper house? And the fact that they have so many in the upper house and they can bring Labor even more to the left, because that's the role of the Greens Party. They are to bring Labor towards the left even more. Labor hate the Greens. You should see them in Victoria when they kick off in the upper house. I remember when I worked there for David Limbrick, whenever the Labor and Greens got into a showdown, they hate each other. They hate each other. So now we're in a position where the Greens have such a strong vote that they will be pulling the WA Labor government, who you might have been happy with for the last 4 years because you're not a shooter and you're not a fisher, you're not a farmer, you're in the city and you've got your mining job and you've got enough money, that's fine. Now we're in a position where Labor will be pulled more to the left. What will that do for your job? Just have a think about that. I know it's a lot to comprehend and you've got other things to worry about, but sometimes it's worth taking a step back and just thinking things through. Catherine Kavanagh again, the stop and search knife laws in WA can result in a custodial sentence if you refuse to be wanted. The police need no reason to do so. This is the other thing. I've been so shocked since I left a year ago how much a police state WA has turned into. These stop and search laws without a warrant, wanding without a warrant, especially in Northbridge and the party districts. This is just overridden years of the fact that the police cannot interfere with a person going about their own business unless they have due cause or suspicion. Not anymore in WA. Police Minister Paul Papalia has been the one who's changed the whole culture of the police in this state. If you listen to Jack's interview too, he touches on this as well, that there are police force here and the police brass have been the ones pushing their own agenda for what they want to use the frontline police services for, which is why we have such a low number of people joining the cops here, because they don't want to be the boot of the state, nor should they have to. The police used to be a community service. You could ask them for directions. You could have a drink with them at the pub and everything would be fine. This is not the culture that's occurred in WA since I left a year ago. It's been terrifying to see, terrifying to see. And you have to wonder what's their end goal, because we have low crime in this state. It's not a There's been hardly any gun crime, and the crime that has been caused with guns has been the bikies and the drug wars that happens here. It's not us, the law-abiding person. The Floriat killer, he was known to police. That's why that happened. That was a failure of police. What's the repercussions for that? The police minister just got re-elected and will keep his portfolio. He might even get a promotion. He might even get a promotion. Is that the message that we want to send to the next generation, that this kind of behavior and leadership is okay and you'll be promoted when someone dies on your watch and you can turn every person in WA into a suspect? Terrifying to see. That's been probably one of the hardest things I've witnessed since coming back here, is the police state it's turned into. Dilmaz85, hello Dilmaz, one of my regular listeners. I'm glad you could join me tonight. Does anyone have more than 5 tools in their toolbox box? Pretty sure everyone does, which should be enough to show how dumb these laws are. Yep, that's right. If the government can limit us on the number of firearms we can own, including our farmers, by the way, including our farmers, what else will they limit next? Number of cars, the number of V8s we can have. It's a very slippery slope, and that's why tomorrow, when I meet with my lawyers, I will be asking them about the limits on private property rights. That's one of the first questions that will be out of my mouth, because that's the one thing that is hurting us the most. I still remember when I called my dad to let him know about these limits. He was horrified because he spent his whole life as a teacher saving up for firearms that he wanted to buy, because it's a free country last I checked, and he does so much work in conservation shooting and managing my grandmother's farm for all those years. That's what we do. We need people like that in the community. We cannot rely on the state to pay them. We're in a cost of living crisis. It is not the role of government to be paying for professional shooters to do the role that the ordinary Australian, the extraordinary Australian should be doing. I have been going for over an hour now. I think I'm going to wrap up. I'm very tired. It's been a long weekend. I was up very late last night checking the election results. I've been on the phone all morning this morning and then out all day moving around my stuff. So it's been a big weekend. I'm up early tomorrow, like I said, meeting with the lawyers first thing, and the King's Counsel will be there. I said to my lawyer Friday, get him in the room, get him in the room for me. I'm ready to go. So, on that note, I am going to wrap things up. Mr. Liberty is telling me I need to read out some more comments. Okay. And thank you to Mr. Liberty. He was so upset today when I showed him the comment about the holiday that me and my long legged guitar picking man have been having in WA. And he's like, you haven't even taken me to Joe's Juice Joint or Alabama's yet. My favorite two bars in Perth. I'm sorry, Mr. Liberty. The people come first. He knows that. Zane Van Day, the people get the government they deserve. Hasn't been a free country in decades. Yeah, this is the other thing. I know a lot of people on X and over East love talking about WA politics when they've never even been here, and they just think we're some backward. You fly to WA, you turn the clock back 20 years. No, we are the best state in the country, and you're over East, and you're the laptop class. We're the ones who kept the economy going during COVID, remember? If it wasn't for WA, this country would be broke. So thank you to all the WA workers. You are keeping this country afloat. Thank you, and you should not be treated like you've been treated by the government. So getting the government you deserve, okay, okay. It is a democracy. Not everyone voted for Labor, and you saw massive swings against them. Massive swings against them. Obviously, it was an uphill battle. It was never going to be enough. Even Nick Garan admitted that in my interview. He wanted people to know the battle that they had here to turn those swings around. So, yes, the people voted Labor and they voted Greens, and we will see what that means. We will see what that means. Okay. I am going to wrap up. I'm tired. I haven't had dinner yet, and I've got a pile of work to get through for the lawyers tomorrow. Thank you for joining me for this WA state election special and my legal action update. Yes, I keep saying tomorrow's the day that I finally meet with the lawyers. So I'll be there with bells on, and I will bring you the information from them as soon as I can. I'm sure I'll be posting as much as I can, but I will do a live stream about everything I've heard. I'm hoping to get one of the lawyers on to chat with him as well. He seemed pretty open to doing that. We just want to help the people of WA. We now know we are in a position where we have a Labor government again for 4 years. They have control of the upper house with the Greens. That's what it's looking like. So the crossbench with legalized cannabis, Christians, One Nation, does not look like they will be able to do much, if anything. And that's something that I also feared, that it would not be enough. So we could not put all our faith in the political solution like shooters were told to do. And I'm so disappointed with the leadership from our shooting organizations. And I just want to put on the record that I did offer to help. I went to that first meeting of the Firearms Council Alliance, and I spoke to Fitzy, and I gave a big speech on the day. I emailed them after I called them. I said, I want to be a part of this. Let me help. I've worked for double SAA for 5 years. I've worked for Senator David Linehelm, the most pro gun politician we've ever had. I worked for Aaron Stonehouse, the Liberal Democrat in the upper house. I am a shooter. This is my passion. Please, please let me help. And I was turned away. So when you get turned away, you can either do two things: you give up or you go your own way. And I've gone my own way, and I'm only here today because of the support of the people. Thank you again to everyone who has donated. We can fight this now, and I want to be the one to fight for you. I didn't run for office because I wanted to be in a position where I could launch this legal action in the event that the election turned out as I suspected. If I had run for office, I would not be able to do this. So, to everyone who was disappointed that I didn't run in this election against Police Minister Paul Papalia or for my old party, the Libertarian Party, they didn't want me either, by the way. They didn't want me either. I feel like it's because I'm being put on this earth to fight for people on my own with the people behind me. So thank you again to everyone who has donated. I will be up bright and early tomorrow off to see the lawyers. And please, for those who are hurting from the election, I know it's disappointing and it's a lot, but remember, you are your own person. Become ungovernable. You don't need to be governed by people in Perth who have their own agendas. You are your own person. This is a big, beautiful state. As long as you are not hurting anyone else, you go and be yourself and be happy and look after yourself. So thank you. Thank you for joining me. And I will speak to you very soon with the advice from the lawyers. Thank you.